Same time, same place tomorrow. God bless America.
When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
Tucker, you are not the father. This has to be wrong!
After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
If it was okay to have anal sex.
No apologies.
You were talking about things that probably you shouldn't talk about.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I finally have my own show! At one point, your ancestors owned slaves.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming.
Oh, see, that's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off, actually.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with your host, Alex Stein, starts right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to After Hours with Alex Stein. You're watching it right here on Real America's Voice. Tonight is a crazy night because, you know, with this recent Epstein leaks, the conspiracy theorists are batting 1,000. I mean, you know, it's I could have told you so. And Pam Bondi had an epic crash out. And then on top of that, our recent visit to the Plano City Council dressed as an Indian man is absolutely causing a storm in the country of India, especially in Mumbai, because I'm getting hit with lots of bots. And we're going to cover all of this tonight. But I want to start out with the conspiracy that I've been talking about since I was a young lad, I guess you would say. I don't even know if that's the proper way to use that word, but it doesn't matter. When I was a young man, I remember my mom crying and the whole world mourning the death of a legendary singer of the band Nirvana, Kurt Cobain. Now, sadly, I guess I've gotten so old, people do not understand. Nirvana was the greatest rock band of all time, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They were the coolest rock band of all time. At a time when Madonna was charging $50 for a ticket, they always kept their price at $17. They didn't care about making money. Like, they were the ideal grunge band of grunge bands. Like, they were the one. They created a trend and movement that sadly has kind of been forgotten by this modern era of music and young kids today. But Kurt Cobain was so likable. He suffered from depression. He was a heroin addict. When I say all of that, it kind of makes him not seem as cool, but he was a true icon and rebel. His music changed the world. And it's really sad the way that he died, because he was allegedly doing a bunch of heroin, where I think that we proved that he was with the autopsy. And he was able to write a really weird suicide note that wasn't as creative as he seemed to normally be in his everyday life, or at least in his music career. And the physics of how he shot himself never made sense. And from the start, everybody thought it was an inside job. And a lot of people blamed his wife at the time, Courtney Love, who was a lead singer of a band and was a popular singer, but not even near the popularity level of Kurt Cobain. And it seemed like she benefited the most. And what was really odd to me, I remember as a young kid, and I remember all the fans, is that Kurt Cobain loved his daughter. That was the one thing that gave Kurt Cobain, you know, happiness, a guy that was, you know, brutally depressed and had a lot of anxiety and stress. And everybody kind of thought, man, he would stay alive for his daughter, that he wouldn't punish his daughter. It didn't matter how much he was strung out on heroin, because that was always his motivation to get clean, was the love of his daughter. And Kurt's wife, Courtney Love, was a mess. She was always butt naked, spreading her legs, going on TV shows, acting like a total degenerate, and really embarrassing Kurt. But Kurt was such a nice guy that I guess he didn't have the nerve to divorce her or break up with her. But I know that they had a very tumultuous relationship. So I want to play this clip that is basically proving all the conspiracy theorists right. The most recent update is that they are ruling it not a suicide anymore, but they're ruling Kurt Cobain's death a homicide. But I mean, the fact that it's so long ago, I don't know if we'll ever get any sort of retribution against his murderer. I don't know if they're going to actually have to pay for their crimes. But I want to play this clip of a forensics expert talking about how the physics of him killing himself really doesn't make sense.
First is the gun. The police have always stated that Kurt gripped the barrel with his left hand to steady it. But this new study argues that is physically impossible with the specific weapon. Kurt used a Remington Model 11 shotgun. The gun has a mechanical quirk. The barrel has to slide backward to kick out the empty shell when you fire. The experts state that if you held the barrel like the police say Kurt did, the gun jams. It cannot eject the shell because your hand blocks the movement. However, at the scene, the shell was ejected and found lying on the floor. The study concludes that for the shell to eject, Kurt's hand could not have been gripping the barrel. And if his hand wasn't on the barrel, they argue that he couldn't have pulled the trigger in the manner described by police.
Now, there's always been a debate. How did Kurt shoot himself with this huge gun? Some people speculated that he used his foot and that he was holding onto the barrel and he was actually using his toe to pull the trigger. But we never knew because the crime scene was so crazy. And at the same exact time, Courtney Love was not really trusted. A lot of people speculated that she could have written the suicide note. And, you know, people could have thought that there was a million other motivations to kill him at the time because he was such a popular musician. So really, nobody believed the story even back then because a guy coming off drugs, yes, he's probably depressed, but for a guy that was the #1 rock artist at the time, I mean, the #1 guy, it was just so bizarre for him to kill himself. And this was the time when Biggie and Tupac were shot and killed, and everybody said that they were basically on quote-unquote Epstein's island. People said that they were still alive, which I don't think that was true. But I'm saying every time these mega superstars would make it to the top of their field, they would die under mysterious circumstances. I mean, we've never caught the gunman that killed Biggie or Tupac. And I guess you could say that we've never caught the gunman that killed Kurt Cobain. So now let's play this side, and it gives us a little more context surrounding this mystery.
Third is the toxicology. We know Kurt had a massive amount of heroin in his system. The study claims it was enough to knock him out in seconds. The experts allege that it is highly unlikely he could have injected that much heroin, put his drug kit away, rolled down his sleeves, and then picked up a gun before passing out. They also point to a mark on Kurt's arm. They describe a puncture wound that looks like it came from a different type of needle than the ones found in his kit. They suggest this could be evidence that someone else administered the injection.
Now, I'm not saying this happened, but there was always a conspiracy that Courtney Love tried to kill Kurt by giving him a lethal dose of heroin, but because he had such a drug tolerance, he didn't die. And so his body was just still breathing, and that's when they framed it and made it look like he shot himself with a shotgun. Now, I don't know if that's true, but there's just so many mysteries surrounding this entire situation that it really kind of makes you think, what is the truth? And now with these recent Epstein releases that we've been talking about for forever, that they said was just a hoax, we're finding out that is true. Seems like all these conspiracies are literally coming true. The conspiracy theorists are batting 1,000. I can't believe it. But it's a sad thing when the conspiracy theorists are right. The conspiracy theorists really don't want to be right. I know that you see Dan Bongino is talking about how people want there to be an evil cabal that's ruling the world, that's trafficking elite pedophiles, and Ben Shapiro said something similar. But trust me, as a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, I wish my conspiracies were wrong. I wish the government told us the truth. I wish we didn't live in a world of lies, and I wish we knew how Kurt Cobain died. And a lot of people that are watching this do not understand the legend that Kurt was, but he created a music movement, the grunge movement, that changed the whole entire world, that brought a lot of people joy. And he was always down to earth and laid back. And that's a lot different than the artists today, like Bad Bunny, that thinks he's the next Michael Jackson, basically. So I want to play this last side. This gives you a little more context of the accusations against his wife, Courtney Love.
Ever since Kurt Cobain turned the gun on himself in 1994, fans have speculated that he was actually murdered by his wife, Courtney Love. This was fueled by the fact that Courtney's own private investigator, Tom Grant, who she hired to find Cobain when he escaped from rehab, genuinely believes that she killed Kurt. For starters, Grant notes that Cobain injected himself with such a large dose of heroin before his death that there's no way he would have been able to pull the trigger. Grant also believes Cobain's note was doctored by Love to make it appear as a suicide note. Additionally, there was a lack of fingerprints from Kurt or others at the scene, suggesting that they may have been carefully removed to hide someone else's evidence. Grant also asserts that Love had a financial motive to kill Cobain, considering Kurt was planning to divorce her. Perhaps most shockingly, Kurt Cobain's own grandfather, Leland Cobain, believed that Kurt had been murdered, and he reportedly held this belief for the rest of his life until he died in 2014.
Now, even Kurt Cobain's family thought that he was murdered. But luckily for Kurt, the majority of his estate went to his daughter, so it all went to a good place, or at least a person that deserved it. Courtney Love was able to get a little bit of money, but she even put it in a trust where it went mainly to Kurt's daughter. But trust me, Kurt's daughter did not get any joy from, inheriting millions of dollars. She'd much rather have her dad. And his music still is popular today, not as popular was. Nirvana Nevermind was one of the best albums of all time. It's more likely a homicide, and we're never going to catch the killer, just like we didn't catch Tupac's killer, we didn't get Biggie's killer, we don't have Kurt Cobain's killer. It's just absolutely bizarre that all of these incredible artists die under mysterious and we never know who did it. Well, speaking of Virginia Giuffre, and then speaking of Savannah Guthrie and all the weird connections to Epstein, I do not think that he was on Epstein Island and he had any connection to the Clintons. So we can rule out all of the Clintons and the Guthries and all of that stuff. And I think we can kind of put the blame squarely on potentially his wife, Courtney Love. But I do hope I'm wrong. Well, folks, we got a great episode tonight. We got Kai Schwemmer on, and we're going to talk about Pam Bondi's epic crash out. We're also going to talk about I'm getting canceled in India, which I love it. I like it because these guys are good at the internet. They're on there clicketing and clacketing. They're helping me get a little bit of that X revenue money that I need so dearly. And I didn't realize that they were so sensitive. And they're trying to say that I'm lying. Some people are saying that I'm lying, but then you see there's multiple comments saying, yeah, okay, we do, eat and drink urine for medicinal purposes. So there's a lot of misinformation surrounding the Hindu religion. And we're going to dive deep into what's really going on. And as a representation of the Hindu movement, I feel like I'm getting targeted unfairly, okay? Because believe it or not, our race is on a spectrum, unlike gender. Gender is very binary, but I believe that I did have Indian grandparents at one time. So I'm 1/16 black, and I'm 1/16 Indian, and I'm 1/16 Chinese. So I can say that. So coming up next, we got Kai Schwemmer to dive deep into what's going on with Pam Bondi.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music. This is the direct response to Bruce Springsteen's recent release, The Streets of Minneapolis. While Springsteen once branded himself as a voice of the working class, The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Download it right now. Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes. Push it up the charts. Make them notice.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
My name is Phoebe, and I live in Florida. I love Real America's Voice. They truly speak for the people, and that's what real patriotism is all about.
My name is TJ Ash from Carbonville, Utah. Real America's Voice lets me express my conservative views without censorship or edit.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching After Hours with Alex Stein. Tonight we have an incredible guest. He is a legend in the making. He is a debate mogger. He has mogged lots of people like Hunter Kozak, who sadly got to ask Charlie Kirk his last debate question, which that was absolutely a tragedy. And he debate mogged the one, the only Dean Withers. So with all that being said, let's just welcome him on, the one, the only Kai Schwemmer, host of the Out of Touch podcast. Kai, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing so good. How about yourself, Alex? Good to see you again.
I'm doing good. You know, we met at AmFest and we had a good time. We were on the On F America tour with Destiny, who's gross. There was Brian Shapiro, who I debated. He's actually not that bad a guy. I mean, he's a little libtarded, but he's not one of those, like, men can be women libtards. He's kind of one of those more moderate libtards, so I actually give him a little bit of respect. And then who did you debate again? Remind me who you debated that night at the On F America tour.
Yeah, it was Hunter Kozak. We discussed whether or not the right or the left is more violent.
Wait, at that tour, that was Hunter Kozak was at that event?
Yeah, that's who I debated. He was in like an all-gray jumpsuit.
Wow, guys, I'm like I wasn't by myself. I was having a good time. I was talking to people. I didn't even realize Hunter Kozak was there. Gosh, if I would have known that, I probably would have kicked his ass. For whatever reason, I don't want to get into that. But, gosh, I didn't realize that was the Hunter Kozak. Man, that guy, he's just bad juju. But I don't even want to get into Charlie. I miss him so much. He was such an American legend and an icon. But, Kai, you are the new younger version of conservatives that are willing to go out there and debate these guys, and I really appreciate it. You're obviously very smart. You got you always have your facts down. You know what to say. But I do think that it's easier to debate on our side because we have the truth on our side. So it doesn't matter if you have some big PhD from some fancy school. If you say that men can have babies, you're retarded. Like, that's just, what it comes down to. And so I think that we have a little bit of an advantage. But I want to start with a clip that is on your X that is very funny because I think that it really kind of proves the point. You talk about how these people, may not understand us. Well, you're very clear with speaking your Spanish so that they understand that you want the illegals out of here, but we're going to have to debate because I want amnesty for big booty Latinas. If you're a 9, you're fine, okay? These cartel members got to go, but I need to learn some of the Spanish so I can talk to the ladies down in the barrio and get myself a Spanish girlfriend. But let's play the clip, and then we're going to get your opinion on it.
When I tell people that I think you should have to speak English to live in the United States, or that I'm in favor of mass deportations, they often reply saying, "You're so uncultured. So many people across the world speak more than one language. Why are you so close-minded?" And I'll be honest, maybe they've got a point. Entonces, lo diré en español. Todavía es un crimen entrar el país ilegalmente, y la consecuencia es la deportación. Mil disculpas, nada ha cambiado. Y ahora te lo puedo decir también en español. Por favor, vete de acá. Si has entrado ilegalmente, eso es un crimen. ¿Sabes lo que es la consecuencia? Chao, perdón, esas son las reglas. Yo no los escribo, solamente los aplico. Gracias por tu atención.
Kai, I mean, no ditty, but that is some beautiful Spanish. How did you learn how to speak so fluently like that?
Thank you, man. Yeah, well, I had the opportunity to be a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints down in Argentina. So I have a little bit of an Argentine accent, but the language is just about the same. And it's cool because, you know, we're not mean guys, Alex. You know, we do not want these people to suffer. We don't want to be totally rude to them. So I'm the guy that you can dispatch to the front lines to say, bueno, amigos, ahora ya es tiempo para ir. And that's what I want to do. I'll let them know in their own language. I'll kind of direct them to where they need to exit. And that way we can just make the whole deportation process a little bit, you know, more streamlined. Nothing gets lost in translation here.
No, I love it. And you're very lucky that you got to go to Argentina. Tell us some of the places your friends went there. Like, oh, gosh, I got to go to China. I got to go here. Did you have any friends go to some terrible places?
Well, nobody wants to go stateside. But honestly, you know, anywhere you're sent to serve is pretty cool. I just didn't want to go to India. And, you know, it's topical given some of your recent
real quick,
work.
I had to cut you off. I had to cut you off because we're going to talk about these Indians because, you know, I had a viral video that's still trending about me, you know, kind of, you know, teasing the Hindu culture because, you know, Frisco, Texas has 33% of the even, you know, legal. They're all here on H-1B visa scams, but we have a copious amount of Indians. But so you have to be honest. We're being intellectually honest. You didn't really want to go to Mumbai, India if we're really, you know, calling balls and strikes.
I did not want to go to India. That was my one thing. My one thing was I just don't want to go to India. And so I made it to Argentina, which is good.
And Argentina must have been fun. So can you tell me, though, were the Argentinians cool when you were going there? I mean, were they receptive or were they like, oh, get out of here, gringo. We don't want to know about, you know, the Church of Latter-day Saints. What were they like?
No, they were really awesome. I love Argentine people so much. They cook these big asados, which is like just a ton of meat. They just cook really, really good stuff. They were really receptive, very religious, very believing people. I didn't find much witchcraft, but some of the other missionaries did. There was one who like left a note on one of these houses in a neighborhood we would proselytize at and said, don't knock on this door. They like started screaming in some weird language and then my nose started to bleed. So luckily nothing like that happened to me, but it's not unprecedented. But I had an absolutely great time. Argentina is a beautiful country, and that's how it should be, you know? Our Argentinians in Argentina, when I was there, I learned Spanish. That's what you got to do. And I felt bad if I was speaking English in the streets. And that's the way it should be in America, too, I think.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy that you were just there for like a year or however long you were there, and then you got assimilated, you learned the language, and then
there's about 4 months
these people come. Oh, that's what it is, 4 months. I didn't even know how long it was, but I'm saying then these people come here, they don't learn the language, they don't have any idea. Like, and it's really, really egregious with certain different cultures. I don't want to have to get into each and every one, but it's like when you come to America, you should embrace our culture instead of rejecting it. And I think that that's the difference between when Americans travel to foreign countries. We're all about trying to become part of that. Like, that's the whole reason that we go to those countries. But that's not the case in America. They come to America to basically take our social services and to inject their culture into our country.
Real, and get this. This is the craziest part. Hardly anybody knows about this. There's a rule in the United States called the 60-25 or the 20-65 rule, which is where if you're above the age of 65 and you've been in the United States for 20 years or more, you don't have to take the citizenship test in English. Does that, like, in what world does that make sense?
This. Yeah.
You've been here for 20 years and you don't have to take the citizenship test in English? Like, are we just like, oh, you know what? It's a lost cause. You're never going to learn it. Like, what's the logic there?
I mean, it's just, you know, we got to make it easy for them. I mean, I think there's a lot of schools in this area of Texas where they've made it where they can have Spanish is like everything's in Spanish. Does that make sense? Like Spanish is not necessarily or technically the first language, but they have to have every test has to be in English and Spanish. So that's ridiculous. I'm not a bigot. I'm not a racist, except to some people. But my point is, it's ridiculous because America is the greatest country on earth, and I believe that it's actually kind of a conspiracy because I think that they're trying to do globalism. They want to make America this melting pot so that we can basically be the biggest domino to fall so that we have some sort of one world government and one world order. And then there was actually a recent clip of J.D. Vance saying that Donald Trump is advancing the new world order. I don't like that. I don't know how big you are of a conspiracy theorist, but I'm a little bit of an isolationist. I want America to be America, and I want India to be India, and I want, the UK to be the UK. I want all these countries to be be their own thing. I don't want one conglomerate of countries and one currency and one ruler. To me, I think that's demonic. I think it comes from the Bible, the Tower of Babel, and that's, basically what they're trying to do. They want us to all speak one language, and they want us to be under one ruler. And God, during Nimrod's rule, when he was trying to build the Tower of Babel, he made everybody speak different languages, so they couldn't communicate, and they all separated. And I think that's how it should be. So I think that is the best way that we operate. Is we all need to have a little bit of differences and not hate each other because we're different, but not try to all be the same.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the most loving place you could think of. I mean, where is that? It's a church. You go to worship, and you look at, like, the way that churches organize themselves. They're very segregated. But do you think it's because the people hate each other? Absolutely not. These are brothers and sisters in Christ. They just know that, they would prefer to worship with people who are maybe of a similar disposition, and even the styles of worship are a little bit different depending on the culture and the community. And this is what I felt, by the way, coming back to the United States. I went to go to a service in Spanish because there was a Spanish ward, like a little congregation that met not far from where I was visiting in California. And I went there and I sat in and, I participated and was kind of part of the service, but it was weird. And I kind of just realized, hey, it was really cool when I was in Argentina to be a part of the Argentine ward and church service. But in the United States, it's like, this is just not me. And it wasn't that anybody treated me poorly. It wasn't that, and I could understand the language. I understood everything perfectly. I'm fluent. But there are these kind of unspoken differences that go a lot deeper than just what kind of food you eat and whether or not you eat it with your hands. There is something much, much deeper that you don't even perceive openly. And this is about, well, what do you think of time? Are you punctual? How do you learn? How do you perceive age? Is it important? Is it good? All of these things matter a lot more than people give them credit for. And language is rule number one. We aren't able to have a functioning society if we can't first communicate with each other.
I think you're exactly right. Now, Kai, we're going to react to these Pam Bondi clips coming up next. But before we go to that, the young people your age, what is it, generation? What generation are you? Alpha, Z, X? I don't even know.
Z.
Which one is it?
I'm Gen Z.
Oh, my
all the way.
gosh. You're Gen Z, which that is great, man. I wish I was Gen Z. I'm a millennial, which, that ages me. But, yeah, don't worry about it. Do you have hope for the future, though? Because I get a little worried. You give me hope for the future, a smart young man like yourself. But before we go to break, are you kind of worried about your peers? Because I think a lot of them are godless, jobless, and hopeless. And there's not really a good example that's been set before them on how to become successful in this world. So I think that's kind of why the support system around them is not necessarily great. But there's guys like you that succeed. So what do you think about your peers in your age group?
You have to break it down even smaller. You have to say, for me, white male Zoomers, we're good to go. We've got it on lock. We're becoming maybe even a little bit too radical sometimes in a good way. So I think I'm not worried about them. The boys are all right. The kids are all right. But you look at the generation as a whole, a full quarter of the generation is non-heterosexual. That's insane. Yep. And too many of them are reading Harry Potter. Too many of them are on Pinterest. This is a huge problem. We need to figure out what the heck is going on. And so I think we are quickly entering the age of banning social media for kids under 16. I don't think that's a problem at all. I think it is a radicalizing force, and it's not been in a positive direction.
Well, I got to go to a conspiracy real quick. Alex Jones said it best. They're turning the frogs are turning gay from the ashes into the water. And I think it's affecting the men and women, too. It's turning the women into men.
Real.
And the men into women. All right, folks, coming up next, we're going to talk about Pam Bondi crashing out. And I don't want to say that. I like Pam Bondi, but watching these clips, I kind of found myself rooting for some of these libtard congressmen and women because they were kind of on the right side of history. So we're going to get Kai's opinion, and we're going to get your reaction coming up next.
Freedom to speak your mind. Freedom to protest policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to own property. Freedom to vote. Freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything. Their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/rev today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
From Muskegon, Michigan. Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
Hey y'all, it's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Howdy, Rav fans. This is Warbringer here. Love you all. Rav is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
Policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business.
After Hours with Alex Stein, and we have a great guest, the young king himself, Kai Schwemmer, on to get his reaction and your reaction from Pam Bondi's latest crash out concerning the release of the Epstein files. Now, Kai, I'm sure you've seen this clip that is going super viral, so we don't need to talk it up too much. Let's just play the clip, because it just really pissed me off. When so many people are struggling financially, and she's talking about how the stock market's doing well, and most average Americans are not even invested in the stock market, it just shows how disconnected with the American people that Pam Bondi truly is. So let's play this clip.
To release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them ask Merrick Garland over the last 4 years one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
Mr. Jordan, am I going to get an extra 45 seconds added to my time?
The committee will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time. This is crazy.
I can't believe
they
that
said
I am
it couldn't be
cheering
done in
on
4
Jamie
years.
Raskin, and I'm cheering on these libtarded politicians because I think they ask good questions. You and I both audibly laughed when she said that the Dow is over 50,000. And then when somebody yelled, what does the Dow have to do with this? And she gets mad. I was empathetic to that. What does the Dow have to do with children being taken to an island and sexually trafficked? So what did you think about that, Kai?
I just thought it was insane. You can tell that she kind of breaks down. Like, she was trying to go somewhere with the kind of, well, Donald Trump, and then she gets lost, and then maybe it's a phonetic thing of like Dow kind of sounds like Donald. And so she just goes into the immediate, what is the first thing I'm thinking of? I am a Republican appointee, economics, GDP. And we're just so past that. Like, this does not matter. We're talking about children being trafficked. I do not care what the Dow is hitting. Like, Miss Girl, I'm sorry, you're in that seat, not just to defend Donald Trump, but to talk about the way that the release of the files was butchered, to talk about the crazy redactions, and to obfuscate that by saying, but the Dow, it is falling so flat, and I don't think anybody likes her response.
No, and people have not been satisfied with Pam Bondi right now, and especially, over the past, I guess, 1.5 years. And I think that if the midterms are a bloodbath, she's going to be the first person to go. And I think that's the only
100%.
reason Trump is waiting to fire her, because he doesn't want to look like he hired the wrong person. So he's going to wait till the very last moment where he's forced to do it. So I really see her probably losing her job within the next year, especially after the midterms. But this is my problem with it. I'm empathetic to her. I've been in a lot of these rooms. I've testified at, hearings, and it is stressful. You got a bunch of congressmen that are all annoying, yelling at you. So, I understand that she was in a high-stress situation, but all she would have to do as a blonde is play stupid and eat a little humble pie. That's all she'd have to do, and she would get out of there. Like, she should have worn a shirt, maybe with a little cleavage or something, but instead she went, she's trying to fight fire with fire instead of just being like, oh, well, my position would have been, these are 6 million documents. We're going to make a few mistakes. We're doing our best. It's a tough situation. And just kind of act like it wasn't her. Kind of like what Dan Bongino did, is just kind of like take no accountability for it and just be like, oh, it's not a great deal. But she didn't do that. She kept doubling and tripling down and making herself look more guilty to me. So how much responsibility does she take in this Epstein stuff? Because, like I said, I am empathetic to her. This is a horrible situation, but it seems to me like every instance she's on the side of the pedophiles for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a good side to be on. I'll just say the way it squares off, not a good side to be on. I think another thing you have to look at, right, is the way that she's being media trained. You can tell that a lot of her responses have been trained to say a particular thing, especially when it comes to defending the president. Defending the president isn't a bad thing. It is a bad thing when the questions you're being asked have literally nothing to do with the president and are literally just asking, hey, why did you redact that name? Do you know who did that redaction? Can we get accountability? Which isn't even necessarily an indictment of her or of the president. It's asking, who did that redaction? Can we find that out? And she still won't engage. And I'll be honest, I don't want to be too rude, but Pam Bondi is a DEI hire. I really want to see a guy in this role. And I really wish that we would talk about these issues in a way that wasn't just the same regurgitated, political slogans, but was rather truly a substantive look at what's come out. I don't think she is evil, by the way. I think she is, like you said, maybe much more of a dumb blonde. I think this was probably major incompetence from the Department of Justice, and it's okay to admit that. It is okay to admit, hey, you guys asked us to release 3 million files. We had a ton of AIs. We had a bunch of people working on it. It took us a month. There's going to be a ton of errors in it. We'll try to find out if anybody was intentionally obstructing something that should have been left unredacted. That's good. That suffices. But she didn't do that. She pulled out the campaign slogans and the slop.
You're right, but what if I asked you this? Was she it's hard to even speak in your language. Was she gesture maxing because Jamie Raskin was frame mogging her, in your opinion?
I think so. I think she was intimidated. She came off like at most a low tier Becky, at most a low tier Becky. She could have been sub 5. The performance was sub 5 in and of itself. And I think had she bone smashed a little bit more, gotten the rosy cheeks, maybe a little bit more mascara around the eyes to give her more of a hunter eye look, I think she could have come off more intimidating to the committee. But she wasn't able to pull off a mog at all, and ended up just gesture maxing all over.
Yeah, she was gesture maxing. She had a cortisol spike. I mean, I really
crazy cortisol spike. Crazy.
I mean, legendary levels of cortisol spiking. So It's really sad when you get totally frame mogged by Jamie Raskin, because I don't even think he can walk without a cane. Now, where do we go from here? How do we rectify this? How do we kind of take the power back? Because I hate to say it, this looked like an L. It looks like the conservatives took an L on this one. How do we come back from this, in your opinion?
I think you just have to go all in. Like the problem that a lot of people are seeing, and unfortunately the right wing is, Pam Bondi, she said it as well. It's like, well, Trump is the most transparent president. Yeah, but it shouldn't be that the Congress has to, drag him kicking and screaming. I thought this was poorly executed from the very beginning. And what the response has to be now is not, well, why didn't you ask, Merrick Garland? Why didn't you ask whoever about this a couple years ago? The response now needs to be, you either go all in or you don't touch it at all. And I think you should go all in. I think it is important that there is justice being brought to, these people who are complicit or collaborated in sex trafficking with Jeffrey Epstein, like, Les Wexler. I think that's absolutely something we ought to be doing. And the way to start is by saying, hey, we're going to push for more redactions, or less redactions, rather. We're going to have unredacted stuff come out. We're going to produce more of the files. We'll try to do so to the best of our ability. It's not to sit here and try and claim that all of it is political persecution, because at the end of the day, the right began talking about this conspiracy, the sex trafficking that does exist in the high levels of government and of power in this country. And we ought to be the ones who double down. We ought to be the ones who say we will actually get justice for these victims. And it doesn't matter, if along the way we've made some errors. We are committed to the mission, which is in pursuit of justice and of good. And unfortunately, Pam Bondi wasn't even able to address any of that. She'd rather talk about the Dow Jones and about how, 4 years ago, people weren't asking the same questions. We're past the 4 years ago. We have to move on and start doing things right now.
Well, we have some more clips to react to coming up next, but I have to be honest, I was having a cortisol spike because just watching that and then also knowing that she was the AG when Jeffrey Epstein got a sweetheart deal for his sex trafficking when he was in Florida, when she was the AG of Florida. And I don't know if you've heard the conspiracies, but Daily Mail covered it, that they had to use a body double to take Jeffrey Epstein's body out of the federal prison so that the media wouldn't see it. So they admitted that they used a decoy body. And then on top of that, Ditch Magazine recently was able to hack into Jeffrey Epstein's FedEx account, and it looks like somebody in Israel working for the Special Diplomatic Affairs of the Israeli Army is getting packages right now. So there's a lot of weird coincidences with this. I don't know if Jeffrey Epstein's still alive. I don't think he is, but when it comes to getting Pam Bondi, I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath. So coming up next, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into these conspiracies. We're going to get Kai's reaction to me getting canceled by the whole entire country of India. So coming up next, you do not want to miss it.
Freedom to speak your mind. Freedom to protest policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to own property. Freedom to vote. Freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything. Their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/rev today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/rev or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of the Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.
Why do you love Rav?
Because we've become family. All those Rav live chatters and me.
Hey y'all, it's Nancy from Texas. Real America's Voice gives us truth, not propaganda, and we need that. Thank you so much.
Howdy, Rav fans. This is Warbringer here. Love you all. Rav is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
And that is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. The same level of facility, I don't know why. But, you know, instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should be talking about Irina Zarutska.
I have a couple
who
of
died
other
on a
questions.
subway.
Right, and I absolutely...
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're here to testify. That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So, of course, we're moving back to you. It is all about you.
Now, Irina Zarutska was the Ukrainian immigrant who was brutally murdered on a Charlotte metro rail, and that was a tragedy, and I think there should be more politicians talking about it. But there's a time and place to talk about Irina Zarutsky, and of course, it always goes back to Ukraine. They always have to Ukraine guilt trip us about Irina, and you know it is sad that she died. But Pam Bondi, you're there to speak about the Epstein files, and I just... This is the thing. She kept doubling down on stuff. If we have to give her a little better prison accommodations, as long as she's in prison, I don't think it matters. And that's my personal opinion, because her life's still going to be hell. So if she's at a level 2 or level 3 security prison, nobody's really going to care. So I don't think that makes her look guilty. The fact that she was kind of fumbling and bumbling with that instead of just owning it, like, hey, listen, we gave her a little better prison because we want to get this information from her. We're not letting her out of jail, but she's just going to get a little bit of a better quality of life inside of jail, which is still going to be very, very bad because you have no freedom, you have no real way to have a life. So what is your opinion on that? Why did Pam Bondi handle that so bad and then deflect to Irina Zarutsky?
Yeah, again, it's the same argument. You're totally right. This is the way she should have taken it. She should have just said, hey, we were trying to extract the truth out of, this predator, which is why we are involved in negotiations where maybe we alleviate some of the stress of the prison while keeping her there so that we can get information which is going to help bring justice to the victims. That's a great answer. That is a perfect answer. It's a perfect answer from her. That's not what she did. And, you said that Irina Zarutska, that she was a person. Well, it sounds like from what Pam Bondi is saying is she's actually not a person at all. She's a political talking point. She has become just a name that you can cite to get you out of trouble. Irina Zarutska to Pam Bondi in this clip is a get out of jail free card. It's actually just a way of obfuscating, and instead of putting the attention on me, deflecting it and throwing it back at people who are other elected officials that are putting you in the hot seat. And so I thought that was actually not only was it weird that it was a total deflection, it was frankly super disrespectful to Irina Zarutska and her family that she's become this kind of political slogan just to be whipped out whenever you're in trouble.
Yeah, and poor Irina Zarutska, I mean, she definitely died in the most tragic way possible, not even provoking somebody. And this guy had a rap sheet, I think 18 previous arrests to Carlo Brown, or I forget what his name is. I don't even really want to give him the credit of saying his name. And she was brutally murdered, and that had nothing to do with that hearing whatsoever. So I guess one of my last questions surrounding this, do you think Matt Gaetz would have been that much better as AG? Because, there's all these weird allegations against Matt and he was not charged. But do you think Matt would have been a better option? I personally think he would have been. But what do you think, Kai?
100%. I mean, I kind of default on it just because, he's a guy. But second, yeah, I mean, I like Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz' case, too, the way that he was persecuted, it shows that he was a threat. And I don't think people are similarly threatened by Matt Gaetz and Pam Bondi. I think they understand that Matt Gaetz is probably a little bit more of a consistent and maybe more competent political actor. But I also think, if he was in this hearing, I think he would have handled himself a lot better. I think he would have been more composed. He certainly would have mocked. I think Matt Gaetz would have mocked a lot harder, and that's half the battle.
He definitely would have been mogging. And, he lost weight. He got that hot wife, Ginger, so he would have been really vibing, and his cortisol would not have been spiking.
You see how AOC was looking at him when they were in Congress? She was eyeing him up.
Yeah,
that's bipartisan race.
Yeah. And that's kind of the lie, though. We have this impression that these politicians all hate each other, but really, a lot of them behind closed doors are friends. A lot of them are actually sleeping together. I don't want to, name any names, but that does happen. Believe it or not, these politicians are spending long nights on Capitol Hill, and it doesn't even matter if you're right or left. If you get that feeling in your groin area, sometimes these guys act on it, which is not a good thing. We should not be acting on it. Premarital sex is bad. But I'm just saying, these people are drinking, Kai, and they're under a lot of stress, and they're making, impulsive decisions. And believe it or not, I wouldn't be surprised if AOC did something with Matt Gaetz. But I don't think Matt Gaetz would cheat on his wife. But I know AOC would cheat on her cuckold boyfriend, Riley. Because Riley, when I catcalled her, I said, "You're my favorite big booty Latina." He didn't even turn around. He was such a soy boy beta. I mean, I frame mogged him, I Chad maxed him, I looks maxed him, and I height maxed him. I was pure maxed out. I was maxing out right on his girl in front of his face, and he didn't even have the cojones to even try to compete in a max off. Yeah, so he's a judge. He was a 1. He was walking her dog too, so he was being a little baby back.
You're telling me he was getting dog walked? He was
getting dog walked. Wow, I was frame mogging him. It was insane. I mean, it was just a very classic video. Well, Kai, I'm getting totally Twitter mogged by a bunch of Indians. I want to get your reaction. I want to show some of the tweets, especially, I think it is, what is it? Not Alex Jones, but let's go to... Can you read that? Can you see that on the screen? What does that say? Okay, there he goes. Who is this retard, and why is he allowed to speak this way for so long? I mean, that guy doesn't understand that we have the First Amendment in our country, right? I mean, isn't that what it is? He's just uneducated, Kai?
Yeah, and it looks like he also doesn't have his auto caps on. That "and" is lowercase. This is a total beta male. And his name is Arshdeep. Are we serious right now?
Yeah, anyway, I know. Pause.
Crazy name physiognomy vindicated.
And then what was the last one that we just showed on the screen? What does that say? A comedian is mocking Hindu and using I can't even read it, cow dung. Well, listen, we don't need to show it any longer. They are eating the cow dung and drinking the cow urine. That is a real thing. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. They do say that there's healing properties, and my guy Kai didn't want to go to India. So it's all love, India. We love you. I'm sorry that you guys are so pissed off, but please keep engaging with the tweet. It is continuing to go viral. So Kai, before we go, where can people find you and support you? And I appreciate you coming on After Hours with Alex Stein.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Alex. I've loved it. You can find me on X, Kai Schwemmer, SCHWEMMER. You can also find me on YouTube under the exact same name, and on Instagram, KAIKLIPS, Kai Clips.
We have a bright future with young men like you. Do not let any of these girls try to jester max you or, do any of that stuff. Stay strong. Don't be weak for these sub-6 freaks, all right? And that is an order. That is an order. All right, guys, thank you guys for watching After Hours with Alex Stein. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Freedom to speak your mind. Freedom to protest policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to own property. Freedom to vote. Freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything. Their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/rev today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/rev or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of the Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.